Hey, Bomb Squad. If you're a comedian or a podcaster looking for an affordable website solution with a modern look, then we recommend Puck's Hub. With a Puck's Hub website, you can set up your new website in minutes with easy-to-use pre-built templates. Puck's Hub websites are customizable and can easily be integrated with other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The best part? Puck's Hub plans are only $5 per month. We use Puck's Hub for our website at the Art of Bombing podcast, and we think you should too. That's why we've partnered with Puck's Hub to offer listeners a free 60-day trial. Head over to puckshub.com to subscribe and use promo code AOBPOD at checkout for your 60-day free trial, and then pay only $5 per month after that. Take your career to the next level with your own Puck's Hub website today.
Dan Bublett's Comedy Productions.
Wait, did I find my own merch at Goodwill? That's what's coming up on the Art of Bombing episode 275.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast. It is me, your trusty host, Dan Bublitz Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, cohort, and co-producer, Josh Shirley. How's it going, Josh?
Hey, have you, are you into, I know you're into video games. I was about to ask you if you're into video games. I know.
I mean, I haven't played in a long time. I used to
really?
be a huge video game nerd, and since I started comedy, full disclosure, I don't have time. And people will be like, "But you do comedy. Why don't you have time for video games?" And I'm
Of
gonna
course
be
you
like,
do. You don't
"Because
have
I'm
kids.
busy hustling."
And you do
That's
comedy.
why.
Jeez, man, there must be something going. There's like a bunch of dead bodies in Dan's basement, guys. There's
No, I spend my time reading comics. That's what
comic
it really
books.
is.
Okay,
It's when I have free time, I'm reading comic books. That's what I'm trying to do.
That's right. So my son is into the Nintendo Switch. He's got the Switch,
Nice.
and this new
Get the new
game came
Zelda?
out. New Zelda came out. I was about to say the new Zelda came. He just got it yesterday. And he is so excited. Like, he was excited to go to school on Monday because on Monday he would get to come back home, finish his homework, and then get to play.
Get to play, yeah. See,
So
now
excited.
I have a lot. See, while I don't like necessarily play a lot anymore, but I do keep up. I knew the new Zelda game was coming
That's
up.
right.
I have tons of friends that are still into, that do gaming. So
Yes.
for me, it's I just don't have time or extra money to buy those kind of systems.
Yeah. Well,
I spend my time and money on comedy. Like today, I just went. The reason we had to record late is because I had to go to Fort Collins and buy a camera from somebody.
I had met a guy at a gas station.
No, it was another comedian. So I just had to go to the comedy club and meet him over there.
Nice. All right. Got
Yeah,
a good
that's-
camera.
I did. I got a new camera. It is
Any cool
is,
video games on your camera?
maybe that's what I'm gonna do. That always kind of makes me cracks me up how like a lot of kids will watch people play video games instead of just playing the
know.
video games.
Okay, so my son does that too. Like, he's on
Nonsense to me.
YouTube. I am willing to bet he spent more time watching somebody else he doesn't know play video games than he has actually been playing.
Oh, is that can we say that that's the modern strategy guide though? Like when I was a gamer, they used to come out with strategy guides where
Okay.
it was like
Like
a
a book?
book. It was a book just for a particular video game that would have it would have strategies, it would have the tips and tricks and like all the secret stuff. If there was particular secret codes you could put in. It had all the hidden stuff. It was basically tells you everything about the game. And maybe that's what the people watching YouTube now that's what that is. It's like the modern day strategy guide. Instead of reading it, it's coming in visual form. You watch it.
And I have played Zelda Breath of the Wild, the one before this.
Mm-hmm.
That was an amazing.
I played the original Zelda.
I played the originals like when I was a kid. But this new one is so great. Like, not the new one that came out, I don't know anything about. But like the one before this was just one of the best video games I've ever played. It was like spectacular. Like I'm like, okay, man, get off the screen. You got to go to bed. He goes to bed. I'm on it. Like further than him in the game.
That's funny. That's hilarious. You're further than him in the game. That's hilarious. Well, people want me to get back into gaming. You can contribute. That's how you can go to buymeacoffee.com/ourbombingpod and throw money in our coffee pot.
There you go. Get Dan back into gaming. In a few
Instead
minutes
of firing
ago,
Josh this week, get Dan back into gaming.
That's right. It's a more constructive thing for those of you out there who want to focus on that. Hey, you know what you just said a second ago? Like, it's been like over 2 minutes, but I wrote it down, and you said something that I wanted to repeat.
Oh yeah, what'd you write down? I want to know what your
the word strategy, but the way you said it was strategy. And you know who would say it like that?
Today's guest.
That's right.
And that wasn't even me like trying to. That's just how sometimes I talk. I got that high voice, and sometimes I just go all in on it. Strategy.
Masters. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm gonna go back and listen to the episode again. I'll be like, no, he didn't do
that. No, he was. Yeah, you're right. That's who I kind of sound like. And people listening, once you dive into this episode, you'll probably kind of realize that he's got a little bit of an accent. We're trying to figure it out. We're going to find out what it is, and then next week we're gonna reveal it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna find out, and next week we'll let you know. But this week that's who we talked about, and it was fantastic. And we got into a lot of deep stuff, which we're going to talk more about on the callback episode. We talked about ticketing platforms. We talked about doing local comedy in areas where you're not local or it's not local comedy.
Right. In ways you might not expect.
No, exactly. And we try to come to the conclusion of this accent that Mark has, but again, you'll have to tune in next week to find out for sure.
That's right. It's not revealed in the callback episode.
It is not revealed in the callback episode. We're still trying to figure out the mystery. And but we're going to get there. We're going to get there for you, the listeners. But this is a great conversation. If you enjoy this conversation, I do want to say, and if you're ever in Vail, he puts on some amazing shows. He produces the Vail Comedy Show, which isn't just in Vail. That's the brand, but his Vail Comedy shows. He does shows in Vail. He does shows in I think it's Eagle, and there's a couple other like ski towns. Basically, he does comedy. He produces comedy shows up in the ski towns. He brings some heavy hitters from LA, New York to headline these shows. He'll do, little runs up in the mountains for these comics. They love it because they can come in early. They get a bunch of shows in Denver. Then they go up into the mountains and do all these fantastic shows. Yeah. So if you're ever in Vail or in the surrounding areas, go check out the Vail Comedy Show. Also, if you're happen to be in Colorado at the end of this month, this upcoming week, actually, it's Memorial Weekend. Go check out the Vail Comedy Festival. That's happening Memorial Day weekend, which is this upcoming weekend. So go check it out. If you're in Colorado, make the drive. It's going to be fun. He's got comedians from all over. Some major, there's some heavy hitters headlining the festival. So definitely check it out
Yeah, this guy
if you're in the area.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the episode. It's so much good information just in the way of pro tips is packed into this episode.
Yeah, there was too many to cover in the callbacks.
Yeah, really, there was. Yeah, it was so many different topics get covered, and a lot of it is ground that our audience ought to be really interested in. So this is gonna be fun.
All right, well, let's get into this conversation with Mark Masters. Enjoy.
And now it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
I don't know if this joke will work here, but I'm going to try it. We'll see. I'm old. We'll start with that. That part will work here. I'm old. Are we upset about the old? You don't want to be called old? I embrace it. Listen, I'm old. I'm hung like a gas station nozzle, okay? I'm hung like a gas station nozzle. Doesn't matter how many times you shake it, still a couple drops for the sneakers. That joke would not work if you guys weren't old. Get on board. That crush, that was the biggest wave of laughter we've had. So I'm old, okay? I'm old. And for me, some things are difficult. They're complicated.
It's the art of bombing.
Have you did any shows this week? I know we got a show tonight that we're gonna go do here in a little bit, but by the time people listen to this,
I've been doing the Colorado rounds. I did the Fort last night. I did Comedy Works on Tuesday. These are short spots. It's not like featuring or headlining.
Yeah. Were you in the contest last night?
I was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How'd that go?
It was fun. I was a standby. I got in the bullet spot.
Oh, nice.
And it was a great room. There was like 100 people there. It was really fun.
Yeah, those contest shows that they've been doing, they've been filling them out.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. Middle of the week, I mean,
I did it last week and it was packed.
Nice,
packed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah, and the contests are always great in Colorado because all the comedians are good. It feels like.
Yeah, there's strong competition. I just signed up for the Comedy Works Fresh Faces contest that's coming up.
New faces.
Is that what it is? New face, fresh faces, new faces. There's
whatever.
so many faces in comedy.
They have acne. That's all you need to know.
Right? Exactly. How the show's then been in Colorado for you?
They've been great. I mean, I run a ton of shows. I run the Vail Comedy Show. I got a newer one in downtown Denver, LoDo Comedy Show.
Yep.
Yeah, Colorado's great. I love
the
mountain
420
towns.
show was really good.
Yeah, that's a little off brand for me, but everybody else on the show was on brand, and John Novosad headlined Hippie Man. He's so funny.
Oh, he's so good, so good.
Yeah,
we've had him for some of our shows up here in Loveland.
Such a nice guy too. I've spent a lot of time with him, and I just love how seriously he takes comedy still after all these years. I work with a lot of comics who are maybe run down a little bit, and they're kind of over it. But they're still doing it. It's like all they know how to do, and
then that bitterness comes in.
Yeah, he's not bitter at all. He's like, oh man, I just listened to like a 45-minute set twice in a row, and I got all these great notes out of it. It's
wow,
like
that's
awesome.
amazing.
He does ride the bus a lot.
Well,
which, helps.
Still, I wish I could. I wish I had the fortitude to sit and listen to my comedy to the same set twice in a row and get notes from it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I can barely listen to one go round, period, even of a 5-minute set.
Right.
I don't know how that is for you, but
I like listening to sets.
Do you?
Yeah. And I like watching them too.
Yeah. I've been trying to get better at that, but still terrible.
I try and tape everything.
Same.
So like if something fun happens, you have it. It's always the worst when something glitches, like you're not recording the audio or and you only have video or whatever. And then of course, you go down a new rabbit hole in a joke and it's funny and it works and it hits well and maybe there's some organic audience interaction. And so I try and record everything and then I listen to about half of it, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, and I think recording everything is so smart. That's what I do too, because I used to get real nervous. Like I wouldn't record everything, and then I would need like an audition tape or a submission tape, and then I'd get nervous and just like mess it all up. So now recording is just part of my routine.
Yes,
setting
exactly.
up because now I'm not nervous that the camera's running because it's just part of the process. It's part of I'm going in, I'm going to do the show, I'm going to set my camera up. Even if I can't get a good angle, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to record as long as it's not in the way. And, you know, because there are times when you can't record because there's just no freaking room for a camera.
That's smart. That's smart. The other thing I find is something usually goes wrong, and I'm always getting new equipment. And so as long as I do it at every single show, eventually I'll get good at it.
Yeah. Well, and I just did, well, not just, I guess it's been like a month or so, but I did your Vail Comedy shows, and you're pretty fancy because you got your camera, and then you have a broadcaster that links off your camera onto TVs and the venues and all kinds of fancy stuff going on over there.
That's funny.
And you're, you know, almost pretty much, I guess you have some help with doing some of the stuff, but for the tech stuff, you're pretty much a one-person production.
Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes, but I buy a lot of equipment. My newest thing is I just got some of those wireless mics. You like clip one of them on your lapel, and then you put one like into the audience, and then there's a receiver somewhere.
Yep.
And so I used that at Comedy Works on Tuesday, and the mic for me was too close to my mouth. The gain was too high. It was like squeaky or whatever. And maybe it's because it's a cheap system. I'm not really sure, but
yeah, it's hard to say.
But that's how you learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I use a field recorder that has a lapel mic, and I put it about halfway through my shirt.
Okay.
Or, you know, and then
do you hide it? Like, can you see it on video?
A lot of times you can see it on video, but because it's not easy to hide. Just the way the clip is, you just
do you wear button-up shirts? Is that okay? That's smart.
Yeah, I usually wear a button-up shirt, and then I come up under my shirt, and then put it like halfway down, so it's not like right under me. And I've had really good luck with it doing a good job of picking me up, obviously. And I mean, there's some gain control that you have to set prior, but it does a really good job of getting my audio and capturing the audience.
Oh, interesting.
Like, you know, like if you link right off the microphone on the stage, you can hear the audience a little bit, but barely. Yeah. It does a pretty good job of mixing that up because it's, you know, it's right there on you. So works pretty handy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But then you have to know how to do the editing because you need to be able to sync the audio and stuff like that.
I have stacks of hard drives at home with all these clips, the audio, video, sometimes like 3 different audio sources, like the soundboard, maybe stereo on the audience, and then video, like 4K video. The whole thing is like 25 gigabytes. The folder for that show, never watched it, never listened to it. It's just sitting there in a closet. And then someday I'll get an intern, Dan. And they can go through all that stuff.
Can get an intern, or I'll afford an assistant.
Yes, exactly.
And then I can just put all kinds of content after people are done consuming content. After it's too late, something else will be out there. Yeah, that would be nice if... that's one thing with comedy. They don't tell you. It doesn't come with an assistant.
No. And there's so much busy work. I spent 3 hours today setting up tickets for future shows. You know, I made a poster and 3 different aspect ratio graphics for each of the shows, and then I had to upload them into Eventbrite, and I had to make 5 different ticket types and set the location of the venue and the, you know.
And with all that too, I mean, and that's just, like you said, the busy work. Now, think of if you could spend that much time working on your comedy, how much better your comedy would be. And I don't mean you personally, but I just mean in comedy in general, because same here. We spend so much time doing this other stuff that we just don't, we don't get as much time to just focus on our material.
Right. There's an upper limit to how much time I can spend writing. Like, I feel like I can't, I don't know if you can like force yourself to write, but I can't. I'm more of a, like, I take little notes throughout the day, and then about once a week, I try and look at all those notes and maybe write some material, make sure I take them to mics, and it's really like on stage that I'm trying to experiment with that new stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I think of stuff and then just kind of work it out in my head and then take it on the stage or whatever. I mean, if I try to sit down and write, sometimes what I can do and I haven't done it in a long time, but I will do like a writing prompt, or, you know, mostly I'll do like a word a day kind of thing, where go look for a random word, use a random word generator, generate the word, and then try to write some one-liners with that word.
Right.
Or based on that, you know, something that is inspired by said word. And then sometimes I can do that, but I can't just sit down and write.
Are you on Twitter?
I am, but Twitter's a garbage hole.
Okay. There's an account called Joke Prompt, and it spits out a new word every day.
Yep, I've seen it. I've done it now here and there, but but I try not to be on Twitter as much. I deleted Twitter from my phone.
Good for you, I guess.
It
must have been a reason.
Yeah, because it's garbage now. Now that, you know, Elon Musk runs it, it's trash. It's just them trying to like shove a white same thing, I guess, but a right-wing agenda down your throat. Like, it's crazy how much political stuff comes up on my feed, and I don't follow them. I don't have friends that follow them. And I'm just like, this algorithm is horrible.
Huh. You get what you pay for, I guess.
I guess, exactly. That's why I don't use it very often, which you, oddly enough, are the opposite. You don't use any social media but Twitter.
Yeah. I'm
which
on
is
Facebook
wild
and
to
Instagram,
me.
which goes back to your point about what if you had more time to write. And that's how that's the way I look at Facebook and Instagram. I don't know. Do you have a guess how much time a day you spend on Instagram or Facebook?
Oh, yeah, way too much time.
Way too much. Let's say it's 2 hours a day. I'm not spending that 2 hours a day, and hopefully I'm writing jokes or going to mics or working on comedy in some way.
Yep. Well, but when I'm on Instagram or Facebook, I'm not just like, I'm spending, even though I might not be doing anything productive in the sense of posting my own stuff, I'm seeing what other stuff, I'm like researching, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Well, no, I am, because I'm seeing what other comics.
I spy on you. You got a pretty active
what other comics
bands in town, and every once in a while I see, okay.
Yeah, got to see what other people are doing, see what's working for videos, you know, because I do post a lot of like reels and stuff on Instagram, because I mean that's really how you can, you know, kind of build a following.
What's your biggest success with a clip?
Oh, I've had a couple get like 80,000.
Nice.
But not, I mean.
And do you know why?
No clue.
Were you surprised by the ones that went viral?
Some of them, yes. So I get quite a few that average between 15 and 20,000 views. Okay. And
what are some of
times,
your tricks? Are you captioning them? And
caption. I do captioning. One thing that I do that is I use Headliner to auto caption. Headliner is an app for podcasting to make audiograms, but you can also use it for videos and stuff. So I use that. I just, you know, a lot of it's the timing is really what it is. It's
when the captions show up.
Well,
is
no,
that what you mean?
I mean the timing of how long the clip is. People have such a short attention span now. It's, you know, if you put on a full-on 1 minute reel, chances are they're not watching the whole minute.
That's hilarious. I thought you were going to say like 20-minute set.
No, I'm talking
1 minute,
because
too long.
Yeah, too long for people when they're watching reels and TikTok.
Are you sure?
You know,
do you edit within your clip? Like, do you edit out what would you call it? Dead space, like when you're not talking.
Well, I mean, because if it ain't gonna be to the punchline, and that's one thing editing reels has helped me with, is got to where now I can edit, you know, I know where to cut, where it's like, this might be part of the setup, but I don't need all of it. There's enough there to where I still get a decent enough setup to make the punch pay off in the clip. So it's, you know.
And then will you tell the joke differently in the future after you edit it that way?
No.
Okay. All right.
No.
So on stage, you're still verbose and and lengthy.
Oh yeah.
But online, terse, real short, quick to the punch.
Keeping them. Yep. Trying to keep the jokes short. Usually, I'll post like one-liners, stuff like that. A lot of my material does get harder to post because I'm more of a storyteller on stage, and I do, I try to sprinkle in one-liners or whatever, but I'm more of a storyteller, so a lot of my stuff doesn't work for clips, so. And another thing that's nice about social media is that you can just recycle your clips. I've done that.
Do you? I'm sorry to turn this into a Q&A about social, but do you, when you're headlining shows, do you pay for ads to try and put butts in seats?
No, not anymore. I used to do some, but I didn't see a benefit in it.
Okay.
I feel like one thing I've noticed with paying for marketing for that kind of stuff, unless you're spending a lot of money, it doesn't pay off.
Okay.
You know, if you do like a Facebook ad, but you only put $50, $75 into it, chances are you're not going to get very many impressions, and then the click-through rate ain't going to be very high, and chances are you're not getting anybody to buy tickets. At least that's something that I've found. So
Sure.
I don't, there's other ways. One thing that I try to do, I mean, you already use Eventbrite, but one thing I try to do is I also sell tickets directly on my website. Okay. I have it set up. I have my website set up that I can sell tickets right on my website. That's where I promote when I'm selling my own tickets and producing my own shows. Yep. I promote my website because then that helps my Google rankings and web rankings and stuff like that. But I also sell tickets on Eventbrite because I know that people use Eventbrite to look for things to do.
Right. So the ones on your website, are you basically keeping all the money but 3%?
Yeah, whatever the credit card processing fees are. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you know who your processor is, or
it's just Wix?
That's Wix. Okay. Interesting.
Because I use Wix. Yeah.
And then when people check into the show, you have like two lists. You have the Eventbrite list and the website list, or do you merge them?
I merge them.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can add guests onto my Wix website.
Okay.
And I can mark whether they paid or not. So I just take the Eventbrite guest list, and then I just
dump it
in.
Yeah,
yep.
Merge it in.
Yep.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, and then I just have one list that I have to worry about. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it works out good. But again, that's, it's having your stuff on more than one site. It's, there are other ticketing sites that you could use as well. Although a lot of people are getting tired of brown paper tickets because they haven't been paying people.
Yeah, I used them before the pandemic. There were some nightmare stories where basically when the pandemic happened, people didn't get paid out for like 3 years or at least a year from the events that happened right around March 2020. And I had given up on them right before the pandemic for other reasons.
Yeah, well, good for you. I know somebody, I've been waiting for them to set up a ticket link, and they use brown paper tickets. And I guess the person who books the show isn't in charge of their brown paper tickets. It's the venue. But the venue hasn't been paid for the last two shows so they're pretty upset about the online ticketing, especially because of brown paper tickets, which totally get if you're not getting your money.
Yeah. I mean, Eventbrite is slow. Like I just got the notification that I'm getting paid for the 420 show, and I was like, wow, I still didn't get paid for that? That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I mean, it's been a week, basically.
Yeah, but still, I just had an event last Friday at Big Beaver the day after, and I already got paid.
Okay. Yeah, so
I don't know.
The way it works, it's like rolling. And,
yeah.
I don't know.
I got that. It's hard to
say. They're good. They do pay. They do take, Eventbrite doubled their fees at the beginning of 2023. So it's a lot more expensive. I pass the fees along to the purchasers usually, and I would like to get off Eventbrite, but
yeah, that's why, like I said, I use
and I'm ready.
I use Wix. I pay extra for the being like for the e-commerce package or whatever. Pay like $40 a month or whatever it is, but it allows me to do events and use their credit card processing. Also allows me to do PayPal. So like people have a choice. They can do PayPal or they can do their own credit card. The fees are a lot lower. So a lot of times I will absorb the fees on my website, but I won't on Eventbrite.
Right.
Because Eventbrite is way more.
Yeah.
And so like when I sell tickets on my website, I'll take the hit for the fee.
Yeah, the idea is Eventbrite is marketing for you as well.
That's how I look at it. Yep.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Marketing. So it's like if I get a few ticket sales from there and people see that there's an event, great. But that's why I promote my website, because also drive that traffic to my site. So I'm getting that data. I'm getting that, people on my website doing that thing that helps the rate, the rankings and stuff like that. Yeah. So.
What do you think about a venue? You're trying to set up a new show and they want to do the ticketing versus you. Like, do you have a strong opinion on that? Do you care?
I mean, not really. I mean, it depends on what our deal is as far as are they giving me a flat fee? Because a lot of our venues do their own ticketing, but we get a flat fee.
Okay.
So they're giving us X amount of dollars. That's our budget. So we don't care what that, because then if they don't sell enough tickets, that's not our issue. We're still getting
except
paid.
the show isn't very fun, right?
Well, no, it's
and
not
maybe
very
you
fun,
invited comics,
but
and then,
we still promote it. I'm not
Right.
saying we wouldn't we don't put in our work. I'm just saying we don't have that pressure of having to try to sell the tickets.
my feeling is
It's a
I'd
mix.
like access to that information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I can tell when there's a fire alarm, meaning like 3 days before the show, we sold 6 tickets in a 100-person venue. And if the venue is in control of the ticketing, sometimes you don't know that until you show up.
Yep.
And there's like 6 people, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, I guess we've been very fortunate because we are in good contact with our venues. We keep, get updates and stuff. It's not like we just turn it over and then we just forget about it. We're constantly asking, hey, how are ticket sales?
That's
Where are we at? Oh, we got this many. Okay, we need to do a little more pushing on our end or whatever it is. So there's that communication. But some of our shows I do the ticketing for, and I do it through our website.
Yeah.
And so I do have that access to that information. But
what's the
me,
best
it's
or
just-
worst ticket sales story you have?
oh, I don't know. I mean, there's.
Have you sold more than 200 tickets to a show ever?
Oh, I don't. No, none of our venues sell that many.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have that many tickets available.
Right.
I just did. No, well, not this last Big Beaver show, but we did a Valentine's Day themed storytelling show at Big Beaver, and we oversold we were over capacity. We probably shouldn't have had that many people in there.
Okay.
But it was sold out before the day of the show.
Have you've been doing comedy a long time. Have you noticed that the no-show rate has changed post-pandemic? Meaning somebody buys a ticket and just doesn't show up?
Not really. I mean, most of the people at the events that I've been, doing ticketing and stuff for, people buy tickets, they show up.
Huh.
But
I find about 10% of people
really?
showing up to a lot of my shows.
Wow.
And pre-pandemic, I didn't sell a lot of tickets. I did a lot of free shows.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I've heard anecdotally from other big promoters that it changed post-pandemic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe people are
personally,
getting sick or getting nervous or whatever.
if I buy a ticket, I'm going to be more likely to want to go to said show
Of course.
than if I RSVP for a free ticket.
That's
You know what I mean?
totally
like
true.
I'm like,
I'd way rather do a comedy show where tickets are $2 than $0.
oh, absolutely.
Just because you know how many people are going to show up. They're more likely to show up. They're invested. It's not like ambush comedy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure. Ambush comedy. I call it hijack comedy. And that's both names nail it.
It's not good.
No. What about you? Like, I've had shows where I didn't sell any tickets and you just I just canceled the show.
I haven't had that happen.
I
yet.
mean,
I comp a lot of tickets in
Yeah.
different environments. Like
Yeah.
I run shows up in Vail,
mhm.
and maybe that's why people don't show up. Vail's a pretty fancy ski community for anybody who doesn't know, and maybe they don't care. They bought a $30 ticket and they're going to a $200 dinner, and they're like, we'll just buy another $300 bottle of wine. Who cares about that $30 ticket? And
Yeah.
maybe they don't show
Yeah.
up. What I always say up in Vail is somebody who works a ski lift laughs better than somebody wearing fur. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't want all the tickets in my shows necessarily to be sold. I want some of them to be given away for free to bartenders and snowboard instructors and just working locals who, aren't going to go to the show because it costs $25
Yep.
unless they get a free ticket. And so,
Yeah.
like, I have this big network up there, which I've grown over the years to kind of seed the audience with some younger, more fun people that are going to drain PBRs.
Yeah,
in the middle of the
exactly.
audience.
They're gonna drain them PBRs. They're gonna raise those bar sales.
Right, exactly.
They're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, then that makes the show even better because they're loose.
Right.
Oh, that's great. Well, we've been talking a lot about promoting shows and doing ticketing and all this fun, the behind the scenes of a comedian, but we got to get into the bombing part
All
of
right.
this. So I'd love to hear, you said you had a bunch of stories, but I don't think we can get through all of them.
Okay.
But, you got a couple
Yeah.
or whatever. Let's start
my-
talking about some of your stories.
Sure. My classic bombing story is, the cliff notes are I was new to comedy, not very good. That's why I bombed. I was doing half an hour, maybe the second time ever I'd done 30 minutes. and I drove like 12 hours up to North Dakota.
Oh,
so I'm
Jesus.
tired. I'm the feature. I'm doing 30. There's a headliner who's really good doing 60 after me. It's in a bowling alley in North Dakota. And somehow behind the scenes, there's a contract between the booker, who isn't me. Like none of the comics book this. It's one of these hell road gigs. I'm sure you've done them.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of them.
You know, they don't pay very well. But at the time, I was psyched. You know, I wouldn't do that gig today, but at the time, I was really excited for it. And frankly, I feel like I got the better end of the deal because I did not really deliver. As low as the pay was, I did not really earn the pay on this particular day.
The pay. That's funny. It was low pay, but
I was worse. Yes. The bar was low. I was lower. So part of the contract was that the venue had to have lighting, had to have stage lighting.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a radio DJ in town who last second drove over lighting. And what it was, I was standing at the end of this big rectangular room, and there were two lights pointed at my ears, basically, on either side. They were like light bars. Each one had four lights on it, and they were DJ lights. Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever seen these dance lights that they flash based on like the bass of the music. So as I talked, it was like giving me a seizure because every time my voice would get low, the lights would change color. They were just flashing different colors in my face. Yeah. The whole set.
They weren't stage
They weren't
lights.
really helping anybody. They were making things way worse. And the headliner who knew what he was doing, the first thing he did when he got up at the beginning of his set, he was like, hey, let's fix this room real quick. He moved the mic stand up like 15 feet so he's closer to the audience. He asked the venue to turn up the house lights a little bit because they were pitch black. I couldn't see anybody. I was
my God.
Talking into a void. I had no idea what was out there. And he was like, let's turn these seizure lights off. These are not helping anybody. So the lighting was terrible. I wasn't great. I learned an important lesson about jokes traveling. So that's the idea that certain jokes work in certain areas. Yep. You might have a big city joke.
Regional jokes.
Exactly.
Things like that, yeah.
So I had a big bit about trail running. Let me tell you, North Dakotans do not care about trail running. Not at all. This is like, it's also coal country. I had a joke where a punchline relied on, it was basically the punchline was NPR. And it didn't get anything. And as bad as I was at that time, that joke always worked. And I was so flummoxed by it not working, I like put up my hands to try and deflect the seizure lights and tried to squint at the audience. And I just said, does anybody here know what NPR is? And I'm not kidding. They all said no. Like, you know what NPR is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at the time, I had no idea there were people. I thought NPR was like universal. It was like CNN or probably if I said CNN in coal country, they would have booed instead of, they'd heard of it. But anyways, they'd never heard of NPR. And so that's basically the whole story. I muddle through the 30 minutes. The material's weak. The lighting's terrible. We're in a bowling alley. I'd been driving for 12 hours. It was just like a lot of things were against me. But ultimately, it was just I was learning. I was figuring out how to do 30 minutes on the road in an unfamiliar place. And I don't tell trail running jokes anymore. And
not in North Dakota,
right,
at least.
Exactly.
And that's what's funny about comedy is that while, it's easy to go and people listening who are new, I'm always like, know your worth, but also, don't take these gigs that are terrible, but they'll, and I say it knowing that they're still going to take these gigs because it is part of taking these terrible gigs is part of learning.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you can't get better if you don't have those terrible gigs.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I would 10 out of 10 times I would do that gig again. Yeah. As bad as I bombed, I would still do that gig again.
Still go back and go through that terrible feeling of bombing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of comedy gigs are nowadays, like especially in the Midwest. It's low paying gigs in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. In situations like that where it's set up by a third party booker who's never been to the venue. He just Googled it and was like, oh, a bowling alley, we could do comedy there. Has no idea what the venue looks like, and just like, hey, you guys should do a comedy show. And then they do it, and and then they're like, well, we don't really, it's not set up. There's just some venues that just don't work for comedy. Yeah. Or they can work for comedy, but there's a lot more work that you have to put into setting it up for comedy to make it a successful show.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have certain things, as a producer, there's certain things you need to have a good comedy show.
Yeah. You need great sound. You need great lighting.
Yep.
You want the people sat close together.
Close, yep.
Yeah, a packed room.
Yep.
Hopefully a low ceiling that encloses the sound.
Yep.
I mean, I have spent a sickening amount of money on equipment.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah.
You go to little venues and they don't look like they could have a comedy show. You spend 45 minutes to an hour and all of a sudden you got good seating, good lighting, great sound, and a stage. You want to elevate the performers if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
We
know
had
all
none of
about
that.
that because
None of that at the bowling alley in North Dakota.
I believe that 100%.
I will say now, I love the small town shows. I mean, a lot of my material I can't do in these teeny tiny towns, but you never get a more grateful audience than when you're
absolutely.
like hours and hours and hours from the nearest Walmart, let alone a like professional sports team or something. I've seen corners of America I did not have any idea existed. They're so small and tiny.
Same.
You can drive like a whole 2 hours and not see a house or anything. I don't know if you've ever been to Glasgow, Montana. That's probably the craziest small place I've ever been to.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Same here. It's like there's so many places that I've been that I would never in a million years, if it wasn't for comedy, I never would have went to these towns. I would have never had a reason.
Yeah. But the audiences are so great. They're
absolutely.
so happy that you're there. They're so generous with laughter. They're great with merch sales. They're great just hanging out, and they just love. All of them have been to big cities.
Yeah.
Or maybe started in a big city and now live in a small place, and they're just excited that anybody rolled into town.
Yeah. That's very true. Oh man. Yeah, that's and it looks like because you got a couple shows coming up as well. You got tomorrow. You're leaving for Minnesota.
Yeah, I fly to Minnesota in the morning, and I'm driving to Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. Never been to it. But you're going to be great, Grand Rapids. I'm excited for you.
It'll be fun. Duluth would be fun. I love Duluth.
Yeah, Duluth is great.
Duluth is a great city.
Duluth is
great town.
It's cute. It's really nice.
It is.
The waterfront's really nice.
There's a really cool antique store down there.
Oh,
that
cool.
I
I'll
love.
have to check it out. There was a great barbecue place last time I was there. So I'm doing 2 shows on Saturday night. I've never done that before.
Oh, you've never done 2 shows in one day?
Never done a double.
At the same venue?
At the same venue.
Wow.
I'm a little worried about it, honestly. I'm doing an hour each time, so I'm worried about my voice a little bit.
Yep.
But I'm also worried about just this is like a secret for you, Dan. I'm worried. I know everybody's listening. I'm worried like telling the same jokes so close to each other, it will feel like flat or fake in a way that I'm not really. I don't know. I've never done it before.
That's wild. But I could see why you think that. But you just got to remember you're performing for different audiences.
Yeah.
It ain't any different than you performing Friday and Saturday. The difference is they're back to back, but it's still 2 different crowds.
Well, I've heard of comics talking about how they forgot what joke they've told. When they do like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they're like, some of the nights are doubles, and then they're like, did I tell this joke already? It's not really hitting. And I don't know. I'm a little worried about that as well. I mean, I can probably do 20 different minutes in the second set, but 40 minutes of it is going to be the same material. So
Yeah, but if you mix it up with the other material, then it doesn't seem like the same hour. You know what I mean? Like because it's easy to be like, well, I'm going to do 20 new minutes and then the last 40. But if you like interweave it a little bit.
On all my long sets, that's how I do it. I don't really have, I have something I want to open with, something I want to close with. And then let's say there's 45 minutes in the middle. I have like an hour of material, and I just kind of randomly, based on like what the audience might react to certain things or in crowd work, what they say. But that's dangerous in this situation because then I might forget. I might tell.
Do you write out a set list for when you're getting ready to perform?
I usually do.
Yeah,
I'd say 90% of the time.
Yeah, same here. I don't take it on stage with me, but I usually write it out, and I know where. And same thing. I know where I know what I want to open with. I know what I want to close with, everything else, I have this particular order that I'll write it on my set list, but that doesn't mean that's the order it's going to go. I try to go with the flow or whatever. But that definitely still, having written out a set list definitely helps get it in your head. Okay, like these are the jokes that I got to try to do tonight.
Right.
So definitely can come in handy.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But flying to Minnesota, see how that goes. I got a gig coming up where I won't say where it is, but I'm flying somewhere and I'm getting paid really well. I'm getting paid $1,000 for 2 10-minute spots.
Wow.
But I was thrilled, right? And I just booked my airfare and rental car for $750. And I'm like, oh, this is suddenly becoming not as good a deal. Wow, in the other direction.
It's still, though, $300 for 20 minutes?
No, 1,000 for 20.
No,
500 for 10, 500 for 10.
Because I'm
Oh,
taking
yeah,
away
you're
your
doing the math.
expense.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing math, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
taking
quick.
away
You're
expenses from, the
and then there's going to be gas.
gross.
And I gotta feed myself.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. I was cutting it down just with your air travel
Yeah.
and car rental. You went from $1,000 to $300 profit.
Right. Yeah.
But still,
True.
for 10 minutes, even $100 each set is still good for 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Considering most of these road gigs barely pay $100 or more for featuring for 30 minutes. So that's a pretty amazing gig.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Well, it seems like it, but then it's less amazing once you realize how expensive it is to get there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, for sure. But
be
that's
beautiful.
comedy. That's why I personally don't do as many shows because I'm.
Yeah.
I-
You don't
it-
need
it-
to practice anymore.
Well, it's
necessarily.
not. I mean, you always need to practice, but you don't need to go on the road as often when you live in an area like where we live.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of opportunity right here.
Yep.
Even if it's not like full on headlining sets, there's still plenty of stage time where you can get 10, 15 minutes and switch up that 10, 15 minutes and still be working on your sets or whatever. But it doesn't make any sense to lose money doing comedy. You gotta be logical about it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And I'm just at that point where I'm like, I'm just not, if a gig only pays $200 and it's going to cost me $200 to get there, and then, or $200 for a hotel, and then I have to pay to get there on top of it, it's not worth going.
Yeah.
I don't like depending on merch sales. And for me personally, I just think that, and I have nothing against people selling merch. I sell merch. I don't care about that. I think merch sales should be a bonus to the gig, not,
something you're counting on.
and not something you're counting on. And in comedy, a lot of comedians, especially a lot of road comedians, they're depending on the merch sales to make their money because the shows aren't paying. And the shows should cover, you should be paid for that show. The rest should just be icing on the cake,
Right.
And it's not like that,
I definitely
so.
do gigs where, the money covers the gas round trip. So I'm break even. Maybe it comes with lodging.
Yeah.
And I need the merch sales to make any money. And sometimes I do okay, and sometimes I do great. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I came, and hopefully I made some new fans, and maybe I'll come through this area again. And I sign up some people for my email list, and it feels good on the 12-hour drive back home. Other times it feels less good.
Well, we've all experienced that.
And we're skipping lunch on the drive home.
We're not even getting out of our car,
Yes.
except for gas.
Right.
Not talking to anybody. We're not even going inside. We're peeing at the gas pump while we're pumping gas. Oh man, that's funny. Now I'm curious because you said, hopefully you get a couple emails, and I know you're big on emails.
I am.
And that's great. I think more people, that's one thing I wish
I
I would have done better coming
It's
up.
not too late.
Well, no, I'm trying to get
Yeah.
better at it now, but I'm saying I mean, I should have did a better job earlier, but yeah, I do try. But I was curious, what do you do to try to get people to sign up? Like, how do you, do you offer
I just
a free thing?
I just say, hey, I'm selling merch. If you don't want to buy anything, you can sign up for the email list for free.
Oh,
And
it's-
a lot of times after a headlining set, people like me. I'm lucky. You know, if it was a good show, it's not a bowling alley in North Dakota. The people like me, and they want to connect. They want some kind of I don't know, future relationship with me. Maybe. You know, I look at the stats for the email stuff, and it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
A lot of people sign up and
never
open an email.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But I think in a lot of cases, these people just don't check. They don't use the email the way I'm on email all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, email is half my life at this point.
And one thing, because I've been doing a lot of research just here in the last couple of days on email marketing. I've been watching videos and tutorials on that. And that's one thing. It's easy to be like, well, these people aren't engaging. Well, you have to look at what you're doing, because a lot of times newsletters, you know, if you use certain keywords, it just automatically goes to their spam.
Yes.
And they never see it anyway. So it's not that they're not engaging because they're choosing not to. It's because they didn't even know they got that.
That's the way I
email
look
too.
at it. I think it's that, and some people just never open their email.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have a job where they're on a computer and just email isn't it. They know what their email address is. They haven't looked at it in 15 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're like, okay, I'll give this guy my email address.
Yeah.
No idea.
Because they're like, because it doesn't matter how many emails he sends me, I'm never checking it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I get a lot out of writing. I write a monthly email with basically the stories from the last month.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically I'll go through my phone and look at all the pictures and be like, where was I? What was I doing? And I've gotten better at this over the years. Now, like, I'll take pictures sometimes just to remind myself in 3 weeks, hey, you want to write a paragraph about this funny thing that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was driving through South Dakota a few months ago, 70 miles an hour on a highway, and all of a sudden there were like 300 cattle in the highway. You know, they're just like wandering the roads. It took like 10 minutes to get through that, and I'm going 70 miles an hour again. But for 10 minutes, it's like, moo, you know, there are cows everywhere, basically like walking on the car.
Yeah, I'm from South Dakota, so I'm not surprised by that at all. To me, I'm not shocked by that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's.
I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
That's just a Saturday.
I never see that in Denver. So that was pretty exciting for me.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I could see that. I had another friend one time years ago. He lived in Iowa, so it was pretty shocking that he'd never seen this happen before. But he'd never seen a cow in the middle of the road. Like, when I don't remember what we were doing. We were just out driving around or whatever. And we were on some back roads in the country. And it was nighttime. And just all of a sudden, there was just a cow standing in the middle of the road. And he was just like, what the? Like, freaking out about it. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm like, really? This is like all the time.
That's crazy.
It's like all the time. We're used to this here.
Yeah. So you can sign up for my newsletter on my website, markmasters.co.
Nice.
It's free.
Shameless
It's
plug.
free.
Shameless
Yeah.
plug. Do you do a flash, a light box to pop up on yours?
No,
Oh,
I know what
okay.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
On notgoodyet.com, which markets my book, there is like a flash pop-up thing that basically says, hey, don't go buy this at a bookstore. Venmo me directly, and I'll mail you an autographed copy cheaper than you can buy it online, and I get way more money.
Yeah.
Is the gist of the note.
That's another thing you did pretty early on. Wrote a book about your experience in comedy.
That ties into the emails. The emails are me writing basically drafts of the next book.
Yeah.
So like the book I wrote, Not Good Yet, it's about my first 6 months, first 100 mics in Denver, Colorado. And I go to New York and Los Angeles just to like check out comedy. And I'm trying to become like Jerry Seinfeld in 6 months. Spoiler alert, doesn't happen at all.
Obviously,
I'm still pretty bad.
Obviously, you're on this podcast.
Yes.
And and if you were Jerry Seinfeld, you would not be on this podcast.
Yeah. Not crushing. Although Medford, Oregon, thank you to the guy who delusionally told me I reminded him of Jerry Seinfeld. You're the best.
That's great.
Yeah. I think all he meant was I made him laugh a couple times and I didn't swear. But
Yeah. But
I'll take it.
Take that win. Take that win.
I took it. And thank Medford, Oregon, record merch sales at the time.
That's
I just broke my
wonderful.
record the other day.
Wow.
So-
What's your record on merch sales?
It used to be 176 way back in the day. So one of those hell gigs that I didn't like basically broke even. before merch sales, but then I sold $176 in merch, which I was the feature. The headliner sitting right next to me sold $0. That was tough. That was kind of a good feeling, actually.
Yeah, it feels good, but at the same time, it's also really awkward because
the guy
you feel bad.
That
for
guy
him,
booked me to headline in his hometown like 6 months later. So like it was just it was a weird.
I've definitely had that same thing happen where I was the feature and I sold way more merch.
I mean, part of it is having better merch, but I also just connected with the audience better at that particular show. Anyway, so 176 was the old sales record. And this year, I had a New Year's resolution. I published this in December in my monthly news or monthly emails, and I wanted to break 200. So in Medford, Oregon, I did 2 nights of shows, and on Friday, I sold 176 again. So I was one $25 book away from getting over 200. And the next night, I sold 211.
Oh, wow.
And I was psyched. And then the other day, where was it? Oh, it was in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I sold 220 to 230. And the difference there was I got a credit card reader. And I cannot believe forever I was like, this is going to be too expensive. It's too much trouble. Like comics, get a credit card scanner.
Or be able to accept Venmo.
I accept Venmo all the time, but I'm sick to my stomach of all the interactions I've had where I'm like, somebody's like, oh, I love this so much. And maybe they're a little tipsy or whatever. And you're like, okay, I take cash, Venmo, Zelle. And they're like, okay, I don't have cash. Let me see if I can figure out. And then they just kind of like wander away.
Oh, yeah.
And then my new thing is cash, Venmo, Zelle, or credit card. And 9 times out of 10, the person has a credit card and they can even just tap it.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
What are you using for a credit card?
Square
you're using
is the company.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm familiar with Square.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I've always used PayPal in the past, but they keep changing their reader and their service. And
I was blown away by how easy it was to sell merch by credit card.
Oh,
I mean, it wasn't like still most of my sales were Venmo or cash, but there were a couple on the margin that probably the customer wouldn't have bought anything, but because I was able to offer a credit card, they did buy something. And I've always been like, if I'm selling a $5 sticker, but I'm only going to get $4.50 after the fees, that's ripping me off somehow. And now I realize $4.50 is better than $0.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So low 200s is the merch.
That's great.
Record.
And what do you sell for merch? What do you?
I got stickers. I got beanies. Look at this. I got one right here as a gift for you.
Oh, nice.
Vail Comedy
look at
Festival
that.
beanie.
I'm getting a Vail Comedy Festival beanie.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have to do the festival.
Yeah.
Or buy it.
Buy it. Nice gift. I have
me a
festival
beanie, though.
T-shirts that I sell. I haven't ever made T-shirts for my act.
Okay.
But I'll sell these long sleeve T-shirts that I had extras of from the festival. My book is a big one. I sign it for people, take pictures with them, and I don't know what people do with them, honestly. I don't know if they go straight into the trash can or if they're on bookshelves around America right now or get given away as gifts or they're at like
funny.
Goodwills all around the country.
You just go to a Goodwill and there's just the Mark Masters section.
I would be thrilled
That would
see
be
my
pretty
book.
hilarious.
I would
actually.
definitely take a picture of it.
And to see, like, go into a Goodwill and not just see one copy, but like multiple.
Like one of these small towns.
Yeah.
I go back to the
No,
small
yeah,
town.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I
You go
sold
down-
10 copies of the book over 2 nights, and
5 of them are in the
yes.
Goodwill.
that might smart a little, but
It would still be pretty funny.
it'd be pretty fun. I'd probably buy them and then just resell them.
Right? Why not? Why wouldn't you?
You buy $25 new, 15 used. It's made out to Teresa. Is your name Teresa? Doesn't matter. We can tear out the page. I'll sign a different page.
You just get one of those insert pages, they make for books for signing.
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, they have like I forget what they're called, but it's like I think it's like a signature plate.
Okay.
And it's basically just a paper that would fit in the book, and you sign it and stick it in.
And what's the idea? When they get home, they frame that piece of paper or something?
I'd probably keep it in the book. But
so it's so you don't
could,
damage the book.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's my guess.
Huh,
Yeah, so you don't damage
interesting.
the book. So.
Okay, that's a good idea. Maybe.
Yeah.
I got sticker sheets recently. I've never had that. Like I have a bunch of stickers for different jokes, and I got a sheet that has like 6 stickers on it, and each sticker is duplicated twice in different sizes. Haven't sold,
wow.
haven't sold very many of them yet, but I haven't really figured out the pricing of that.
Yeah,
because it's
tough.
giving away everything basically.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of merch is too. It's like trying, especially if it's not good merch in the sense where it just doesn't hit. Because I've had plenty of like shirts that just
I think shirts are terrible.
Oh, when I
tell comics all the time, like,
oh, same.
it's
I would
too
never.
easy for somebody to say no at the merch table. You don't have the color I want. You don't have the size I want.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy to run out of a size and not have the right.
And they're heavy.
Yep.
If you're flying, it costs a fortion.
Oh yeah.
And if you have to fly back with those,
yeah,
that's the worst.
Yeah,
kick in the
exactly.
nuts.
Yeah, and even if you sell a bunch, you still have to bring the luggage back.
Right. Well, you can use like a duffel bag and.
Well,
fold it
yeah, I
inside
suppose.
of
Yeah, you
something.
can do that. That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I got tired of selling shirts. I've tried selling hats as well, and again, it goes back to the hat just wasn't great as far as like
the
what it
barometer
said, but like the joke that wasn't a great joke for the hat.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but
Right.
now I have great merch and I sell.
Nice. You do have great merch. I like it.
I sell
Like the
a
barometer
bunch.
for good merch is when you talk about it on stage, people are surprised and happy and clap. Like you can get an applause break.
Yeah.
Talking about your merch.
Yep.
That's when you know your sales are going to be good.
Yep.
In about 10 minutes.
Yep. And it's great because it's low overhead for me
Yeah.
and I can make it myself. So if I run out, I just make more. So like when I'm on the road, I just bring my stuff with me.
Yeah.
And if I run out, just going to make some more quick.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Which, because that's again, going back to what you're saying, like if you do have a really good night and you run out of merch, I mean, that's a great feeling, but not if you still have 3 or 4 more shows on this run.
know.
Because now you're like, oh.
I did a gig in Keystone, Colorado, and I didn't know it was a big gig going into it. And there were 275 people in the audience. And the headliner didn't have any merch and didn't care if I sold merch afterwards. And I had like 3 of my most popular sticker with me. Like I just hadn't like restocked. Like I had the stuff at home.
Yep.
I just hadn't like put it in my to-go bag. And that was a terrible feeling. Like right when I walked in the room, I was like, oh, this is an opportunity that I completely blew.
Yep. You're like,
Poor
there's
preparation.
A lot of people here. I could make some extra money.
Yeah.
But nope.
No.
I got lazy. Well, and I don't know, going back into bombing, I don't know if you've had this before, but I've had it to where I did so bad, like on a show, that I was just like, yeah, I'm not even going to pitch my merch now.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I just like bail. I don't even say. I'm just like, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had a situation where like a joke just doesn't work well that the merch is for.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll just
Yep.
skip that piece of merch. I won't talk about it on stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just, yep.
Yeah.
And that's,
And I
that
can always
makes
tell,
sense.
like I always try and sell those jokes.
Mhm.
I know that half an hour later, I'm going to be showing a sticker about this joke. So I really want, hopefully an applause break when I'm telling the joke. And then I know that later when I reveal that I have merch for it, they're going to be excited. I'm going to sell a bunch. And
yeah.
it's kind of silly how much comedy is merch.
It's sales. That's really what it's sales
It is.
merch. That selling merch is
It's
what
a bummer.
comedy is. That's another thing that I like about the merch that I sell is that I don't have any jokes for it. The pitch itself has become the joke. Like it was inspired by another bit that I used to do a long time ago. Like the name came from a joke that I did about one of my exes, but I don't do that material anymore. And the sales pitch itself has become the joke. So I don't have to depend on, I didn't tell the joke. Now it makes no sense if I sell this or not. So that definitely comes in handy. When you're thinking about that, because this is a good question, and I don't know that it's, we talk about merch and stuff all the time, but when you're thinking about merch, or you're thinking about how, what joke, like how do you decide what you're going to make?
It's a
sticker?
combination of what jokes are working really well and what will look cool. And also some of it with my merch, and it's so funny how we're dancing around. Like neither of us is saying what our merch is, and the reason is you don't want to give away what your merch is because it's usually like the punchline to one of your big jokes.
Yeah.
But a lot of my merch is stickers, and they are all themed in a certain way. So I started with one, and I added a second, and I added a third, and they're all in the same general category.
You do pretty good selling stickers.
I do great. Are you kidding me? It's incredible. They cost,
no, I know
25 cents, and I sell them for $5.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will give me $20 for one sticker.
That's amazing.
It's just like, I always say like $5 or whatever you want to give me.
Raise the prices of my stickers then, because I do them $2 each or 3 for $5.
Yeah. I think the trick is, like, my stickers don't have much advertising for me. They're all, there's something that the audience wants, and they want to put it on their water bottle or their car.
It's like a regular sticker. It's not like my stickers is a picture of me. It's the cartoon
that's
logo.
Totally different.
So you know what I mean?
That's free marketing for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of times I give the stickers away for free.
Yeah.
I'm just like, nah, have them. I don't really push them. I don't even when I pitch my merch, very seldom do I even mention that I have, or bring them up or whatever. I'll do my main merch. And then I'll say, and I might have some other stuff, that kind of thing. But I just did a show up in Laramie last weekend, and I was surprised. I sold more stickers than I'd ever sold before. Because, usually it's my game that sells, not anything else.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, give me some stickers. Can't quite afford the game, but I'll take a sticker. And I was like, all right. Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to be careful. You want it to be a joke that you don't mind telling for a long time. You really want to know that you like the joke. Unless, you can sell out of all the stickers quickly. But I'm going to be telling these jokes for a long time. And
to get my overhead down, I bought a lot of these stickers.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't. I use a big. I guess I don't mind saying it. Sticker Mule is what I use.
Sticker Mule.
And you get these promo emails. Yeah. And every time I get the promo email, I use several email accounts to order one batch of each of the stickers.
So I don't know if you know this, but a lot of times if the quantity is 50,
yeah,
and you order 100,
yeah, it's the same.
It's the same
unit price.
Unit price,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never want too many.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying.
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you don't have to use multiple email accounts to get that.
Right.
That sale. You can just stack it in the whatever the quantity is.
Right. Got it.
They give you that.
But then
discount.
You have more product, and I'm always worried about having too much product.
Yeah.
If I get sick of the joke or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same with the books. I used to always order the books in 25, like batches of 25. And then I started ordering in 50s. Like I got a little more confident. And then I went on like a cold streak, and I was like, I'm going to have 40 books forever.
Where did you get your books printed?
It's all through Amazon.
Oh,
it's called KDP.
Oh, okay.
Is the self-publisher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they print them and.
Yeah, I just order them. Oh. Like it's a little different than you buying it on Amazon.
Because you're getting it at a wholesaler price essentially.
Yeah, it's like the author's price.
Gotcha.
It's much cheaper, and the shipping's very expensive.
Yeah,
which is why you kind of want to order a lot of them at once.
Yeah,
but yeah. So we both run festivals. I feel like we should.
Oh yeah, we do. I
know you're really smart and good at like submissions. Everybody always wants to know, how do I get into a festival? What are your top tips for?
My top tips for getting into a festival, I've said it plenty of times on this podcast, but is for one, the first thing is read the requirements from said festival. That's like the biggest thing. Make sure you're doing what they want and you're following their submission process. Because most festivals, at least most good festivals, will have all that stuff laid out on their website. And first thing you need to do, read that material. Find out what they want. If they want a 3-minute video, make sure you're sending a 3-minute video. Don't send a 10-minute video and be like, well, I didn't have a 3-minute video. Here's a 10. Because they're not going to watch it.
Right.
And if
they'll just watch the first 3 minutes.
Well, that's what I mean. They'll watch the first 3 minutes, but if your best 3 minutes is at the end of that 10 minutes, they're not watching that.
Right.
So that's always like the first tip. And then it's just having good video, good quality. Use your best material, but not, it can't be a best of reel. It's got to be a continuous set, but that doesn't mean it can't be. And again, this is the preference of the festival, but a continuous set, when a festival says unedited, what they really mean is it just needs to be a continuous. They don't want a best of. if you have a highly professional video that has editing where it's like cut from angle 1 to angle 2, but it's still a continuous 5 minutes,
Right.
they're probably going to be okay with that. I mean, I've seen submissions. People have submitted their late night showcases on it. You know what I mean? Like I've seen at some of the festivals that I've produced, I've seen people submit dry bar clips. I've seen Conan clips. I've seen the Late Show clip, like Tonight Show clips. Am I going to be like, well, I'm not watching this because,
It has multiple camera angles.
This was edited. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No. But what they don't want is a best of where you tell one joke, get a good laugh, and then suddenly you're in a whole nother club in a whole nother outfit telling a different joke, getting a good laugh because, then they're going to just throw that out.
Yeah.
And then make sure the audio is good. That's the other thing. Good video quality where it's good framed. I always suggest waist up, but not, you don't want a lot of headspace either between your top of your head and top of the camera or the, camera. So you got to frame it, tight frame, good audio, straight on as best you can so people can see your facial expressions. Because sometimes that's how you sell a joke is it's your body language. It's your facial expression, and make sure they can hear you,
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. I've seen a lot of good submissions and I've seen a lot of bad ones.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I've seen,
It helps you, right?
It does.
Seeing
Oh,
the
yeah.
bad, that's half the benefit of going to mics anymore is seeing bad habits in other
Yep.
comics and being like, oh, okay, I don't like that as an audience member. I feel like I do that a little bit. Let me take that out of my repertoire.
Oh yeah, yep, that's a good point. Yeah, you can learn so much from watching other people, and same thing like with when it comes down to having a festival or producing a festival and making it better. One way that I've done it is looked at other festivals. I've looked at festivals on the ones that are good, ones that are bad, both festivals that I've been a part of, that I haven't been a part of. I look for what works, what doesn't, and try to do what works, and stay away from what doesn't.
Yeah.
So you can learn from everything. And same thing like what you're saying with the open mics. If I see somebody doing something, and I'm really good at picking up on tics when watching other people, and then I get distracted because now all I'm like, oh man, I wish they would quit wrapping that mic cable into a lasso. Are they going to go lasso the mic stand now? What's happening here? Why are they keep twisting that? And that's because I used to have tics and other people pointed them out.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, got to stay away from that. But I can totally see what you're saying with see somebody and you're like, I kind of do that. I should stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And it applies to tape as well.
Yeah.
You see tape and you're like, oh, I don't really like that tape. Let me make sure the next time I send tape to a booker, I don't have any elements that I didn't like from the tape. That
Absolutely.
I watched.
And that's important. That's another reason it's important to watch your tapes too, as well.
Yeah.
Watching your tapes and kind of seeing, oh, you might have, thought it was a great set. It might have been a great set, but there could have been something.
Yeah, some beer bottle got dropped in the middle of it.
Something, it's something out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't watch that video, you just submit it, and now it's like, well, that's why you didn't
Definitely
get in.
watch the videos you submit. If you can't take the 5 minutes to watch your 5-minute tape you're sending to some reviewer that has to watch 50 to 100 tapes, that's just cruel.
Yeah, absolutely is. Absolutely is. But I definitely, like I said, I think that's the kind of the three most important things: good audio, good video, and making sure you're following that festival's guidelines.
Yeah,
See what they want, because you can save a lot of time. I don't know how it is for you, but I've gotten I get a lot of emails, a lot of questions that could have been if they would have just went to the website and looked, the answer's right there.
Right.
It's like, now I got to spend this time.
You're saying people are dumb, Dan?
No, I'm saying they're lazy. I'm saying they're lazy.
Okay.
Not necessarily dumb, just lazy.
Okay.
And in this profession, if you're going to be lazy, you can't get mad when your career starts lacking, Because you do. You have to be a go-getter and get up and do the things. You know it. We
Yeah.
started talking about this right up top. The busy work.
Yeah,
you know, it's
you got to put in that time.
you got to put in
to
that
get the
time.
stage time.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to start wrapping up. I got a few things that I like to talk about at the end at the end of the podcast. First thing I like to ask, when you're on stage, you tell a joke and it doesn't land, or you feel like you're starting to lose your audience, you know that you're going to start bombing if you don't change. In that moment, what goes in your mind, and what do you do, or how do you try to deviate to make sure you keep your audience?
Yeah, so I mean, it's surprisingly easy. Once you figure out what a saber is, you know, like something after a joke that isn't a pre-written material, but you're addressing something that just happened. It's the same thing as reading the room at the top of the set. You get great laughs anytime you're saying something that's unique to this performance that this audience is getting that will never happen again. You know, a train goes by outside and you talk about that noise. You know, I'm bombing so hard that you can hear the train outside. Like, everybody's going to laugh harder. It's so frustrating. They're going to laugh harder at that than something you've spent years crafting.
Yeah.
So whenever I don't do well, I have a joke that I don't say the word Viagra, but it basically is an allegory or an allusion to Viagra. And then I'll just, if it doesn't go well, I just say, oh, I guess little blue pills haven't made it to fill in the blank of the place. That saber always works. The joke works about half the time because sometimes people are on dates and they're uncomfortable. You know, maybe it's an older audience and maybe they just started taking little blue pills or that. Who knows why people don't want to laugh at jokes sometimes. But the addressing the fact that the joke didn't work, that tends to work well. And then the other issue I have is sometimes it's the jokes traveling, which isn't all, you can't always predict it. Like, maybe I'll tell a sports joke and it just completely bombs. And my set is predicated on like 3 more sports jokes. And I'll suddenly be like, okay, these people don't care about football, baseball, basketball. Time to pull out some literary jokes.
Yep. Audible.
Yeah, exactly.
Here comes the audible.
So you got to shift, be ready to shift to different material. And it's hard when you're beginning.
Yeah.
Like, you might get a 10-minute spot and you have 9.5 minutes of material. You know, now I'm lucky enough that I have a couple hours of material I can deviate pretty well.
Yep.
And I'm also lucky enough to have like longer sets. When you're doing a 7-minute spot, you kind of just want to go front to back, like joke. When you're doing 30 minutes, 45, 60, you can take a pause, talk to somebody.
A little bit.
Yeah, just find out like what is of interest to this audience. You know, and then hopefully that sparks something in your mind. Okay, I have a joke about that. I'll tell it in a couple minutes. I'm not going to tell it right this second because it will seem too obvious.
Do you feel like now that you've been doing comedy a little bit, longer, and now that you're doing, more longer sets, because we talked about this earlier, right at the top, you're talking about doing some of these spots around locally where you had to do, they were shorter sets. Do you find it more difficult now to craft a 5-minute set versus?
I've been thinking about it so much because I signed up for the Comedy Works contest as well.
Here. I'm like, for me, it's so hard. I'm used to doing, like I said, same with you, 30, 45, an hour plus. When I do these other shows and it's like a 3 minutes, even a 10-minute set is getting more difficult to craft for me. But when I have to do these like 5-minute shows or 3 minutes, or to debut at Comedy Works, I had to do a 2-minute set. I had to do a noob set. And I was like, oh my God, can I do a joke in 2 minutes? Because I'm more of a storyteller, but I just was like, okay, I can do this. I'm just going to take all my one-liners and that's what I'm doing. And that's what I did. And it went fine. But it was a struggle trying to figure that out.
I do find it's fun too. Like I had to do 15 minutes recently on a Don't Tell show, and I turned it into like a greatest hits. Like, I was even taking bits and only doing like 75% of the bit, like really distilling it down into what I thought was the funniest. And honestly, it wasn't perfect. You can't always know ahead of time. But now I know the next time I do a 15-minute spot, I have that set list and that recording, and I know the 2 places that I would change things slightly. And I think the next time that I do 15 minutes, it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Yep. and probably tighter than what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Now, you talked a little bit about kind of, because we talked about writing earlier on, but we didn't go full on into it. I'm just kind of curious what your process is, as far as writing goes, but not just writing, but like the evolution of a joke for you. When you think of an idea, you take the note, you go back to it. What is that evolution for you before you're like, okay, this joke is solid, it's going in my main act, or I just can't get there, I'm going to put it off to the side or just leave it where it is?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, sometimes
That's a tough question.
I'll put stuff into the act and it won't work well. Like newer stuff, I'll be like, I'm always more excited about the newer jokes.
Yep.
And sometimes that enthusiasm is too strong. And I will bring a untried, untrue joke into a big paid gig, and I'll know that it didn't work. The audience usually won't know because I'll just quickly I'll
they
use
will
a saver,
know because they'll be like, "Well, we didn't laugh."
Right. Well, but then there's always you can always pivot.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, well, you guys just really don't like Blue Jays, I guess. If the joke is about Blue Jays, and they'll laugh every time. As long as it's not like you can't tell a 10-minute joke and just have it bomb the whole time.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Most of my jokes are like 45
seconds
seconds to a minute and a half long.
Yeah, doing more like quick one-liners, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of important too, because we're talking about, having to like craft that set or whatever, and being able to stretch when you go longer, when you have longer sets. But before you're doing them, even a 10-minute set, it's good that you should have a good 20 minutes, because being able to have that backup to deviate in case you need to.
Right.
It's always good to have way more material than what the set's going to be for that. Yeah. And good to, just going back to watching those videos, because you might have a joke that didn't land and now you're on stage and you can't figure out what happened because you missed something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go watch the video and you're like, oh,
I forgot to set it up.
Or yeah, it could be something you did.
You do a callback and it's calling back to nothing.
I've done that plenty of times. But I've gotten so good now at this particular trick that I've had that happen where I forgot to do the joke, to do the callback, and I caught myself before I did the callback.
Nice. And
then I was able to weave in, do the original joke, weave it into where I was, and then still do the callback.
Nice.
But it doesn't always work. I've definitely did a joke and realized I didn't do the
right. I usually don't know in real time, but if I listen to the recording later, I'll
That's
realize.
when you can. Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll just say a word wrong.
Yep.
I was just listening to a recording today, and I bombed on a specific joke. It was a crowd work thing. I thought somebody said silk out loud, and I made a Charlotte's Web joke. And listening back, the person said silt, SILT, and the audience didn't respond to my Charlotte's Web joke. And I was like, do you guys know what Charlotte's Web is? And everybody's like, yep, we know what it is. And then I was just like, well, I guess it just wasn't funny. And everybody laughed, and it dispelled the tension. But now listening to the recording, I realized everybody was thinking, why is Charlotte's Web connected to silt? And then maybe they're thinking, oh, maybe he thought they said silk, but we're not going to correct him.
But they're in their heads now, too.
Yeah. So it was,
Yeah, that definitely happens. All right, well, we're going to get wrapped up.
All right.
What's been one of your favorite gigs that you've done so far?
Oh, boy. I would say the closing show of the Vail Comedy Festival last year.
And that was the first year, right?
It was very embarrassing. I cried on stage.
Oh.
It was like, and then later, all the comics were roasting me, and it was just like the culmination of a lot of work. And I'd been on stage, it was like roughly the same 100, 150 people in the audience for 20 shows. And I'd been on stage at the very beginning, thanking sponsors and stuff like that throughout. So everybody kind of knew me, and it was just like a nice family feel. And
nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Last thing is we have the Art of Bombing playlist. It's the Get Pumped. Doesn't have to be a song that gets you pumped to do comedy, just for whatever. What's a song that you would like added to the playlist?
All right. I like Wake Up by Arcade Fire.
Wake Up. All right. That's going to go on.
I think Arcade Fire might have got canceled, though. So we might have to...
Did they? I don't remember.
Yeah,
there's a lot of canceling. It's hard to keep up with all of it.
Maybe an R. Kelly song would be better. remix.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Where can people find you online?
Not on Instagram, not on Facebook. markmasters.co. That's CO like Colorado, or CO like cholera if you're not very good at spelling. That's the best place to find me. You can sign up for my free newsletter there. I have a bunch of shows. I have a show in downtown Denver, LoDoComedy.com for that. It's about once a month. We fly in comics from New York and L.A. VailComedyShow.com has very similar thing. We fly in comics from New York and L.A. all over the country. VailComedyFestival.com. That's every Memorial Day weekend. And you can see me in very small towns around the country at random times. You can get all those tour dates at markmasters.co.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
This has been a Dan Bublitz comedy production. Roar.